welcome back to Crown Jewels. We've got another weird one. So with Season 23, that was all one story, The Trial of a Time Lord, for Series 13 of, I guess, this second era of Doctor Who. It's Flux. So, I'm going to try and do the same thing I did there, which is basically discuss how I feel about the storyline as a whole, and try and pick out my favourite segment from it. Flux is a bit messy. I don't think it's bad. I really enjoy the energy of it, but it produces this weird thing because it's all one story. It's a story I enjoy, and I enjoy the story more as a whole, as a 6-hour experience, than I prefer the 8-9 hour experiences of Series 11 and Series 12. However, because they are episodic rather than completely serialized, there are highlights I can pick from and go, yes, this is a crowning jewel. Meanwhile, you can't really say there is a crown jewel in this big, sort of, all-right gemstone. But I can say that my favourite part of it was Village of the Angels. I liked War of the Sontarans too. I definitely think Chris Chibnall understands what makes these monsters tick, and they're great. And they're also set in history, which his era is usually good at. It's also got strong characters, such as Claire, she was great. Jericho, he was great. As characters throughout the entirety of Flux, they are genuinely really solid, and I would love to see more of them. Jericho, it's a bit more difficult, considering he dies at the end of The Vanquishers. I also do like Belle and Vinda. Like, people didn't like their plotline. I thought it was cute. It's fine. As for any of the other characters, I think the only character in Flux I didn't really care for was the Grand Serpent. But he's not in this episode, so I'm not going to really talk about him. But I like Dan. He's fun. I kind of wish we got more of the Doctor and Dan. Because Dan is more of Yaz's companion throughout his entire tenure. Yaz is great, and she's almost kind of got this investigative side to her because, you know, that's what she's trained to do, that's what she enjoys doing. She's no longer a police officer, she still adopts the skills that she learnt into what she does. And do you know what? I like it. The entire plot to do with Division, it's interesting. It was possibly the most interesting avenue to explore in regards to where the Timeless Child left off. Delving deeper into that was interesting, but also Chris Chibnall didn't give us all the solutions, but Division being powerful and being the main threat in Flux makes a lot of sense. In terms of the lore with the Weeping Angels, it feels like everyone says that this is like the greatest hits of the Weeping Angels. I disagree. Of course, you've got sort of things that you've seen in like the likes of Blink or the likes of Time of the Angels, but realistically, they're done in a sort of different lens. We actually get to see characters actually, in the past, sort of mull over the fact, like, oh god, are we just gonna stay here for the rest of our lives? And I think that was something that you never really got in the other Weeping Angel stories, except maybe Angels Take Manhattan. Like, because something like Blink doesn't really have that. It's not really what the story's about, but like, here, now that we have a bit of a longer runtime, a lot more going on in terms of, okay, we've got like 3 storylines essentially. But I do definitely think with those, it makes sense to explore the emotional ramifications in a slow-paced kind of way. And the whole image of an angel thing being realistically taken to its limit. It's trying to be creepy, and I think it succeeds. I think the main thing is that they definitely wanted to visually do something different with the angels. Like, of course, there's very limited things you can actually do with the angels themselves, but in terms of what they can actually do, like with the flaming angel, the angel in someone's mind, and also the angels in the walls, all of that, it's trying to do a different take on the Weeping Angels that I don't think diminishes what has come before. But I do think this episode was successful in that, and I think Flux as a whole, it juggled a lot of things, and maybe it shouldn't have, and it was quite messy. But at the end of the day, I think it's a fun story. I think it's fun on the whole, and it does genuinely have high points throughout. It's probably my favourite 13th Doctor season, but not anywhere like... It's not... I don't think Flux is in my top 10 13th Doctor stories at all. It's definitely not in my top 5, and I probably by the end of this I could probably think of like 5 more. But I do think it's fun. And I think it's an interesting thing to revisit. And do you know what? Village of the Angels does definitely have a lot of suspense and a lot of momentum. And that is probably the best thing about Chris Chibnall and his run, is the momentum. But I definitely think that combined with Maxine Alderton's eye for the aesthetic and for the creepy factor definitely made a brilliant team when it came to bring back the Weeping Angels. But what did you think? What do you think of Flux? What do you think of Village of the Angels in particular? Is it your favourite episode of Flux? Do you think I should have talked about the Sontarans a bit more? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down below, please be nice, and I will see you next time, where I will cover what I think the crown jewels are from the 13th Doctor's 2022 specials. That will round off her era. Bye!